Hi everyone, it's Will on an October afternoon, and the sun is not going to be an issue today since it's overcast but not too cold. This is the 1907 diary series, and we're up to Wednesday, the 26th of September in the Crimea, and I believe we have 2 days left of the Crimean stay. Then we'll go to Moscow, but this particular diary entry I am going to do in two parts. Yesterday we made it through one of the longish ones, but today I'm a little pressed for time, and so yeah, let's do it in two parts. Plus, there are sort of naturally two parts to this diary entry. Okay, here we go. Today, alas, we took our 8 o'clock swim for the last time, then had coffee, and then I studied almost until lunch, which was, as always, at 12 o'clock. After lunch, at 2 o'clock, we went to see the Uchansu waterfall. This was my second time, so I won't say much about it. I'm sorry to say that when we arrived there, we found some disgusting ladies and gentlemen who went part of the way with us on horseback, and when they came up, we left them. After we looked at the waterfall, we had sandwiches and fruit and drank water in the forest, then headed back. Halfway along the road, we noticed some woman who'd been lying there on the roadside since 12 o'clock, as she said. She was sick and so weak that she couldn't even get up. So Miss June, a hunter of this kind of adventure, proposed that we take her home, which is what we decided to do. But very soon thereafter, we met a police carriage that had come to get her, and they took the woman to a hospital in Yalta. It turned out that she had food poisoning from eating bad fish and not cholera, as we had supposed, since she was having convulsions. All right, interesting. Dmitri is a little subdued in this diary entry and not being terribly kind. It's not him at his best, I would say. So they go back to this waterfall because if you recall, the first time they went to it, Dmitri and the three lemmings, Maria wasn't able to go. And this time, presumably, she's part of the party. And last time, Dmitri was so enthusiastic about it. And he may also have enjoyed it very much this time, but as he says, since he's already described the whole thing in a previous diary entry, he's not going to go into that. Maybe you'll recall he was even waxing a little poetic the last time about the insignificance of humankind when one compared them to the permanence of, say, for instance, a sheer rock wall. But this time he's preoccupied with other things and maybe in a little bit of a bad mood, even though they have a picnic, God forbid. But this time the picnic is not stressful because it's without Aunt Minnie. It's been organized by Laming, so Laming isn't in a snit about it. Okay, so who are these ladies and gentlemen whom Dmitri calls disgusting, and why are they disgusting? I don't know. He's using the word so damli, so that means ladies as opposed to women, and cavalieri, so cavaliers, he actually calls them cavaliers, not sure why. And they are disgusting maybe just because he doesn't want them there. He doesn't like having to chat with people he doesn't know or anything like that, and they're sort of interfering with the solitude of the little group and their enjoyment. And it's not exactly clear what's going on with these people. So all of them are on horseback, both the disgusting ladies and gentlemen and the party of Dmitri and Maria. But yeah, I'm not quite sure because it's confusing the way he puts this. So when we arrived there, we found some disgusting and ladies and gentlemen, and it's not sure if that's it. I'm not sure if that's at the trailhead or at the top, because then it's a little equivocal. He says that the two groups were together for part of the ride on horseback, but then they parted ways. They went part of the way with us, and when they came up, we left them. So yeah, make of that what you will. I'm not too sure. Also about, the horseback, Dmitri does specify that these two parties met, being both on horseback. But then did they stop? Did they stop at the trailhead and leave? Were the ladies in a carriage, and they stopped at the trailhead and rode up on horses and then went back down, and the carriage was waiting for them? Because they weren't going to put this poor sick woman on horseback, I wouldn't think, with one of them. So anyway, they're along the road back. They're off the trail. They're along the road back, and they notice this poor woman lying, well, Dmitri actually says on the road, but I changed it to on the roadside, which I assume was the case. No, she wasn't lying right in the road. And he says she's been there since 2 o'clock. I'm sorry, since 12 o'clock. But he also tells us that at home he had lunch at 12 o'clock, and then at 2 o'clock was when they went to see Uchan Su. So maybe they went there on a different route than when they were returning, because otherwise they would have seen this woman on their way, wouldn't they? So there she is, and she's sick, and she's so weak that she can't even get up. And what we find out in the next paragraph is that she's also having convulsions. So that would have been very unpleasant, and I'm not sure that it wouldn't have freaked my own niece and nephew, who are 18 and 16, that it wouldn't have sort of freaked them out. You couldn't exactly say that Dmitri is freaking out, but I think this is very unpleasant for him. Now, in this instance, he calls her a woman, not a lady. But yeah, it's not clear if she'd gone to see the waterfall or what the thing was. But Miss June is the one. Hats off to her. Miss June is the one who's being kind, who's being a good Christian woman in this instance, and saying, no, we're not going to leave this woman in this state. She could die, She's having convulsions, for God's sake. And maybe the rest of them had wanted to ride on to town and send help, which is apparently what a previous party had done, because help comes, as we see. But apparently the last people who had passed by this woman had decided not to take her, and instead to send help back. Boy, always some kind of horrible noise or other. Okay, so it's interesting the phrase Dmitri uses, and it's not a phrase that one would see in English or that I've ever seen before, and usually a translator wants to change those into some kind of idiomatic expression that will be familiar to English readers or listeners, but in this instance I like it. So Dmitri calls Miss June a hunter of this kind of adventure, so he's being very callous about this whole thing, which is why I'm thinking maybe it upset him, and he's not telling us that it upset him, but yeah, he's being extremely callous about it. He's not typically that way. And calling Miss June, saying that for her, she just likes having adventures, and she is on the lookout for them. She's hunting them, as it were, and not, complimenting her on the fact that she wants to help this poor woman. And Dmitri doesn't even call this woman a poor thing, which is what he usually does. So there's something going on in the background here. But anyway, it turns out as well as could be hoped for, because the police carriage comes along and that woman is transferred to them, and they take her to a hospital in Yalta, and apparently they then notify Dmitri and Maria and their household of the fact that no, the woman didn't have cholera, that she'd just gotten food poisoning. And they even give the detail that she'd eaten some bad fish. Well, there would have been a bit of a danger in taking a woman with them who had cholera or some other infectious disease. So even more hats off to Miss June. But cholera must have been something that occurred maybe intermittently, or maybe, constantly here and there. It would pop up in this area because they make that assumption that that's what she has. And cholera is not something, it's not an airborne contagion. So it is bad water, it's infected water, usually stagnant water that cholera can be found in. And if you drink that water, or somehow or other get it in your mouth, then you'll get cholera almost always. And the way it would then be spread beyond drinking the tainted water would be from fecal contamination, because it causes horrific diarrhea, just horrific diarrhea. And so if you were taking some care of someone with cholera, or somehow cleaning up after them or something like that, then, or even shaking hands, I guess you could get it. Although usually you wouldn't shake hands with a person in a state of prostration. But maybe that concerned Dmitri as well. Maybe that scared him a little. But it's not him at his best. But that's all right. He's 16, and apparently apparently things are bothering him. All right. So anyway, we are not told if the woman lives or dies. So hopefully, boy, that must have been bad food poisoning if she was having convulsions. But hopefully she did survive. And what are we going to talk about tomorrow? So we're going to talk about continued efforts to arrange the return trip. And we're going to talk some more about the forest fire and the Olsufievs. And when I say we're going to talk about those things tomorrow, I don't mean that this is a new diary entry that will take place the next day, because, as I said, this will be the second half of the same day, the 26th of September, on Wednesday. All right, so I'll see you then, I hope. Bye.